So, John, you heard a pumpkin joke today. You
Oh
want to tell it?
no.
So if you take the area of a jack-o'-lantern and you divide it by the radius squared, what do you end up with? Pumpkin pie.
That was terrible.
That's not even a laugh.
No, anyway, no, that deserves a laugh because it was terrible. But anyway, I'm glad you guys are here, and I'm glad that we're talking about this Marketing Rebellion by Mark Schaefer. Lots of fun, actually better than I was expecting. I'll just, really quickly, the premise and the thing that I think was the most impressive was his idea. And I think the title of the book is kind of wrong. It's not a marketing rebellion, it's a consumer rebellion against marketing. And this is the third of three that have happened in the history of the world. The first being against the snake oil salesman that resulted in the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1917, I think. The second being the TiVo revolution, where everybody was so tired of paying for TV and then still having ads on it. And so they started buying TiVos and DVRs and ad skippers and, using technology and other things to start skipping ads in their TV watching habits. And the third being what we're in right now, which is where people are opting out of ads everywhere. They're listening to podcasts instead of radio. They're listening to satellite radio instead of anything else, so they don't hear radio ads. They are streaming instead of watching TV, so they don't see TV ads. On the internet, they're using ad blockers on their browsers. Or in Europe, of course, they've got GDPR, which results in a whole lot less advertising opportunities for us in terms of sending emails and so on. And they've also adopted legislation in the United States where we're not accepting calls from people we don't know. So this is the third, according to the premise of the book anyway, and you can tell me whether you agree with this or disagree or whatever, but this is the third and most important to date consumer revolution against marketing. And the consumers now have the power to pretty much avoid any advertising that they don't want to see. And, that puts us in an interesting and enviable position of having to go back to not tricking people into seeing our ads and actually making them want to see them.
And actually, that's not entirely correct.
Okay. I knew you'd argue with it because you argue with everything. So let's hear it.
How are you going to stop people putting billboards up as you drive down the street?
Good point.
I just don't look at them.
Yeah, you're still going to have billboards.
But even if you don't want to look at them, now they got them in flashy lights, and you just automatically, it catches your eye, and you look up and I don't want to look at that. And look at that. It says blah.
Yeah. And if you look at Las Vegas of 5 years ago versus Las Vegas of right now, the whole street is moving. It's really hard to concentrate on driving because everything is moving. On the buildings, and the whole sides of buildings are advertisements, and it's crazy.
But I get it. I mean, that aside, when I went through business school, I was told and I argued with my marketing prof, of course.
Of course you argued with everybody. That's your job.
But she said nobody buys anything if they weren't marketed to.
Right.
Well, they probably wouldn't know about it if they weren't marketed to know to buy it.
This is where I argued with her because, and I gave her an example. When I was a kid, like 8 or 9, I saw a guy riding a bicycle that had a motor on it. I said, I want one of those. So I decided to see if I could get a motor. My dad gave me a motor, and I decided to see if I could figure out how to make it work.
Mm-hmm. But you weren't buying things, you were putting them together from things you already had. So that was
Well,
consumer behavior.
except that I found out many years later that it was actually an old Harley.
That you saw.
But that's not why I bought the Harley I've got. I just
Okay.
thought, that's cool. And I refused to buy a Harley for years because they wouldn't let me ride one at the dealer. And nobody that owned one's going to let me ride one either. And I'm not going to buy something for 10 grand or more that I can't try out. Well, fast forward a whole bunch of years, and then I don't remember, 90s maybe. There was a Harley dealer in a place right outside of South Bend, I think, who said, take it for a ride. And I said, really? Okay. And I did. I mean, I went over there, and the thing impressed me several different ways. One, not the least of which was the writing, but you could stand the Harley up and let go of it and just stand there.
It was really well done.
I've never seen another motorcycle you could do that with. And so then I took it for a ride. I mean, they rode with me on another bike, but I'm okay with that. I just needed to ride it. And then it was a matter of that was marketing to me. Then, subsequently, a bunch of years later, I got one, but still.
So very personalized. I mean, they actually took you for a ride.
Not at all sure yet that you're not going to buy anything if it's not marketed to you. Define marketed to you. I mean, if it's a company trying to market, okay. But if you just decide you want something and you got to go looking for it, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What do you think, Stella?
Well, living in Mexico, I don't have to deal with those billboards. Yay! And I don't get near as much advertising as you have in the US. Thank goodness.
Right.
But if I want to buy something, I usually have an idea. I want this, whatever it is. I want a washer. Okay. And then I go do research.
Yeah.
And so through that research, companies have the opportunity to market to me and convince me that their washer or whatever it is I'm buying is the best or will fit my needs the best.
Exactly.
I concur. So I have to kind of go look for that marketing rather than being marketed to. But yeah, once I initiate that research step, then yeah, there's plenty of opportunity for companies to position them out there as saying, hey, we have this great washer and this is why, these are the benefits to you of using it. And they do, if they focus more on those benefits than the features,
yes,
then they do a better job of marketing to me because I'm going to go, cool, that only takes half the time or half the power versus, it's got 110 volts connection and 140 RPMs or whatever. It's like, that means nothing to me.
No.
Those are features. Tell me why it's good for me.
Exactly.
So the company that does a better job of converting their product, whatever it is, into a benefit to me is probably going to make a sale quicker than someone who doesn't.
Yeah.
That's interesting because when I look at the benefits of, say, a washer, they're all the same. It doesn't matter who makes them.
Yeah, they wash your clothes. Right.
They have one function. They do that. Some better, some lesser. What I am interested in is all the tech stuff that you issue because I want to know how much power is it going to draw because I've got a solar powered house and now I need to know these things.
How much power does it draw? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Two different customers would have a totally different experience looking for a washer.
Exactly.
No, I love that. And, one of my favorite things about this book is the end of the funnel. He talks about this. He talks in apocalyptic terms about everything, which I suppose makes it more interesting. But He says, Google verified the end of the sales funnel when it analyzed the data across thousands of customer journeys and found that no two customer journeys are exactly alike. In fact, even within the same business category, customer journeys take different shapes. People no longer take a linear path from awareness to consideration to purchase. You know, how we always used to in marketing school say, you know, attention, interest, desire. You know, it was a clear path, and we did these PowerPoints where we had, these are the steps we're going to take to get them from step A to step B to step C to step D. And it sounds to me like John's path is probably A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and Stella's path is probably A, B, C, you know, or A, C, F.
I was going to say, I'm going to skip a couple steps in there from John.
Right. And they don't even have a step A, you know, I mean, they're all just whether someone was looking it up on Google, whether someone was asking a question on Google, you know, how much power should a dryer take? You know, I mean, and then that leads to an advertisement, which leads to a white paper, which leads to, you know, tech specs. Or
I like the approach that we don't see ads anymore. I get tired of that stuff. You know,
about damn
show
time.
me an ad. Show me an ad when I've done enough research to know that I'm looking for a washer.
Yeah, and even then, you don't want to.
Now show me benefits to compare company ABCD, and then we'll talk. Before that, don't assume you can sell me something I don't want.
Right.
Right. Well, you know, and when you do a Google search, so let's say you're searching for a washer, instantly you get all these ads coming at you for washers, you know, because of Google's AI
retargeting
out there. Right? And I'm like, I ignore every single one of them going, I got what I need.
Yeah.
You no longer can give me anything that's going to convince me A is better than B unless, you know, you have a sale that's like 90% off, then maybe.
Right. See, and I would push back on that and say, you know, see, retargeting is a fantastic marketing strategy because you're only spending money on people who have looked for washers in the past week. And so that's a great way of not shotgunning your marketing budget and only targeting people who are actively in the market, you know, looking for a washer.
Right. But you know, as a consumer, I've already made that decision.
Okay.
You know, I like, I don't know, Samsung's washer XYZ.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, their additional marketing from, I don't know, LG, Whirlpool, whoever the other players are, you know, isn't going to do a whole lot of good because it's like, that's not what I was looking for.
Yeah.
You know, but now if Samsung comes back and says, you know, this is the washer you were looking at, and, you know, let's highlight some more benefits. We have a great sale coming on, you know, Wind Fiend weekend, which is coming up here in a couple weeks, our Black Friday.
Yeah.
You know, then, you know, that would be useful.
Right.
You know, that would be a good use of targeted marketing.
Yeah. And another thing that John said, which I thought was really cool, is he doesn't ever want to see an ad. You know, he wants to see a product demo or an article or a, you know, something other than what we think of as a traditional advertisement.
And only when I ask for it.
Yeah. And it's still marketing. It just takes a different form for a different type of customer. And there's more Johns out there now than there have been, I think, in the past, because people with specific questions and specific whatever, you know.
Well, you know, what I thought about as I was reading this book, especially in the early part, is, you know, he was describing basically marketing in Web3.
Yes.
You know, because in Web3, I did.
Yeah.
In Web3, you know, your focus is on building your community around whatever it is that, you know, your company does, whether that's training or airplane sales or whatever. You're building your community, and your community is then telling you what they want.
Right.
And then you're responding to that with, you know, hey, we want this, you know, new jet XYZ. Okay, well, then that's where the marketing would go to, is what your community is telling you. And they're not going to try and market, you know, X123, because that's not what you're looking for. That's not what the community has said. This is what we want.
Yeah.
So in Web3, a lot of, The marketing is not so much just throwing a whole bunch of stuff against the wall and hoping something sticks like has been in the past, but it's more building that community and then responding to, what are the customers saying they want or they need, as the case may be.
And to throw out a few aviation related examples, flight schools over the past few years have, it used to be you would show up at the flight school and then you would start the material, and what people want and need is, nowadays you can do a lot of the work ahead of time where you do courseware and other things so that it reduces the amount of time that you spend at the school, especially if somebody is traveling to Florida or traveling to somewhere for a flight school. They want to be able to finish, 20-30% of the coursework with software and with simulations and other things, to the point where they're only going to spend 8 days rather than 10 days doing a type rating, as an example. And other things, I think, the just-in-time things with components and other things like that. They don't want to have to store these things in their own warehouse, but they want to know that you're going to have it when you need it. And, those are some evolutions, I guess, over the past couple of years in aviation that we've seen as far as our customers' products and services. So it's cool to see that. And also the shift from airlines to private aviation, because a lot of people are really put off by, not getting to meetings that they had scheduled or whatever, because the airlines let them down. And, so they are looking at private options, even if they cost more. It's just like, what, the meeting I don't get to is worth, missing a meeting is a bigger hit to me than paying the extra money to get there, for sure.
And there's a better way of saying it. I refuse to let the airlines have jurisdiction over my time.
Yeah.
They aren't anymore. Not one of them is capable of getting you where you go without canceling a flight. And you never know when it's going to be canceled. You might get there, you might not. And then when you get there, you may not get home.
Especially today.
Exactly. So,
right. So we're charter people, and people are looking at private aviation in ways that they have never considered before the last couple of years, right? Yeah.
now even the charter operators, they're all advertising empty legs, and you can get a pretty cheap ticket when they're already going back and expenses paid for. You can get a really good deal on a ticket if you go in the right direction.
Right. And he's right about the fact that it is such a big shift in the way everybody thinks about everything over the past couple of years. Things that we used to take for granted, things that were just habitual parts of life. We're thinking about how to do them better or how to do them more efficiently. And companies have to adapt, and provide better options and better services. So, great. There was another thing I wanted to mention as far as an example of how to get people's attention when all of the doors are shut, except for unless you are walking into an already open door by having a close community. And that is, he talks about the scanning microscope, GE scanning microscope, which is like the world's least sexy product ever, except maybe printer cartridges, right? And, he's talking about how they put a photo contest together where they asked people, scientists who use this particular molecular scanning microscope, to send in photos. And then they took these little photos, which are, these microscopic pieces of art, and invited everybody to their awards dinner, which happened to be the same city as a scientific symposium. And, they thought they were just going to get a little plaque and a nice dinner. They took them out on Times Square, and they had their art blasted on the sides of buildings, these molecular photographs beautiful art on the sides of buildings in Times Square, on those big billboards and things like that. And people were crying and they were laughing and they were slapping each other on the back, and they just turned it into an amazing event for this product that is so boring, And I just thought that was the most brilliant thing, because every scientist in the world heard about that. But people who weren't scientists didn't really care. But that was a brilliant way to really make the rounds with your market and make it superhuman, and really connect with customers in a way that got their emotions involved. And we can't always do that when we think scientific or boring or B2B or other types of products like a lot of our clients have. So,
as an aside, I am no way, shape, or form a scientist, but when I saw a picture of the silicon atoms from IBM taken with that particular device you speak of, it just, to me, was mind-blowing. Not that it was pretty or anything like that, but just the fact that they have the ability to do that. And then you can look and you can see each individual atom.
Yeah.
So what the hell? You can take a picture of atoms?
Yeah.
Well, there's a famous NFT that's kind of the same idea.
Yeah.
The guy Beeple took 5,000 different pictures and put them all together into one mural, and he sold this thing for millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And actually this one big picture is actually 5,000 different little pictures. If you zoomed in that far, on the NFT, you could see each of those individual little pictures. Same idea.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, we've got the James Webb Telescope feed as our screensaver on our TV now. I mean, people get so nerdy about the strangest things, but you don't know who your audience is until you offer something like that that's going to like Perry Marshall's 80/20 marketing book. He talks about how you want to separate the 20% from the 80%, and the way that you do that is you give them a signal that 20% is going to respond to and 80% is going to ignore. And, that's where you are. So I think that's fantastic. It's a really good example. Anything else from the book that comes to mind that we want to?
I actually haven't finished it. I've got 2 chapters left.
Oh, there you go. That's all right. No, I mean, you know what? I love the fact that people are reading books, and I honestly don't care whether they finish them. And I honestly don't even care whether they read the book or do the Audible or do the whatever. The fact that they're aware of these books and what's in them, I think really brings the industry forward, because aviation has always been so traditional in its approach to marketing. And, if we can get anybody to read any of these books anytime during the year, I think that's a win for us. So.
I found another good book, book that you'd look at, Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits.
And it's basically small changes can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Aside, and probably to help end this thing, you said something a while ago about throwing stuff up on the wall to see what sticks. You know where that saying came from?
I do, but I don't remember.
Well, we happen to be in a foreign country where they use the remains of hay that buffaloes have eaten as fuel for fires.
In other words, poop.
Exactly.
Poop. Right? What they do is they actually scoop this stuff up and throw it up against the wall. And if it sticks, it needs to dry for a while. If it doesn't, it's usable.
Right.
Yeah, you can have a little adobe hut made of poo.
and then when you hear the subsequent sayings, you got to get your stuff together. They actually stack this stuff after it falls off the wall.
In these beautiful patterns and things. I'm like,
yeah, it's just crazy.
That's fuel pellets.
Anyway, I just trivia.
Anyway, that was bizarre. So,
all right. Well, I need to depart.
Okay.
So,
well, tell everybody who you are and where they can find you, and we'll put this in our podcast.
So I'm Stella Bouldin. I'm one of the copywriters for ABCI. You can find me on LinkedIn or my profile when we get our bios up.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that. That will be fun. Thank you very much for your help with those, anyway, by the way. Cool. Well, have a fun class, and we'll talk
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.